Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining me today on this very special weekend of science. My name is Dr. Vanessa Pirotta, and I'm a scientist from Australia. And it is my absolute privilege to be presenting to you all today on some of my very famous world research on humpback whales and whale snot. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit briefly about some of the work that I do and tell you a little bit about my study species, which is right behind me, the humpback whale. I hope that you have lots of questions, and please don't be afraid to contact me. I'm more than happy to answer your science questions. But if anything, sit back and relax and enjoy this next 15 to 20 minutes worth of fun science. So I've been very organized, and I've actually prepared some screen shots, or rather PowerPoint presentations for you. So I'm going to share my screen with you all. And this will be a great way to follow along so you can take note and also engage with science on a much deeper level, pardon the pun. So today I'm talking about drones to collect whale snot. And I'm just going to relocate my screen there. But as you can see, I'm from Macquarie University, which is based in Sydney, Australia, which is a very, very far away place from you all. And if you'd like to follow me on Twitter, you can. My handle is @Vanessa Pirotta. And both Instagram and Facebook, I'm at Dr. Vanessa Pirotta. So let's get into it. The work that I do is largely focused on marine animals and learning more about them. But the way in which we go about learning about our ocean generally does involve technology. And so this is what's really cool. Technology is just about everywhere in our oceans. And this is a great thing because as we continue to learn more about how things work on land, we can apply these understandings and these ideas in the ocean. So in other words, innovation and technology is helping us learn more about the sea. And the sea is important to all of us because it provides the air that we breathe, it provides the food that we eat, and just depending on where you are in Greece, it also surrounds your homeland, as well as it does here in Australia. And the more work that we can do in our oceans, such as using technology to learn about it, the more we can help protect it. And one of the ways we can learn more about our oceans to help protect it a little bit better is by coupling technology and innovation with marine life, because marine life live in the ocean and they're doing these things anyway. So if we were to put these two things together, we can actually learn a lot about the animals, but also our marine environment, so that we can help protect it a lot better. And that's what's so exciting. And this is something I'm so passionate about. And so the animals that I work on are the humpback whale. And as you can see behind me as well, there's a humpback whale underneath the water. But here I just wanted to show you that these whales make huge migrations each and every year. So this is a photo of a humpback whale in Antarctica. These animals are about the size of a bus. They're really big. They can grow up to 17 meters long and weigh over 40,000 kilograms. So you have a large marine mammal making huge migratory movements each and every year. So during the winter time, they'll move up to Australian waters where it's nice and a lot warmer than Antarctica. And then during the summer, which is now the Australian summer in the Southern Hemisphere, they're down in Antarctica, where they'll be spending the summertime feeding on small krill, which are prawn-like little creatures that looks very much like a prawn. And then once it's time to go north, this is in the wintertime in Australia, which is your summertime, the opposite, these animals will switch directions and go all the way up the west and the east coast of Australia. And this here is a photo that I took of a humpback whale off Sydney. So this is where I'm based. Think of Sydney, the Sydney Harbour Bridge, the Sydney Opera House. This is a very, very great photo because this shows you that these animals come within just a few kilometres or even closer to one of Australia's, if not the biggest cities in Australia, which is great to see. And then once they get to their lovely breeding grounds in the Great Barrier Reef, for the population I work on, it's beautiful. The water's tropical, it's calm at times, and the animals there, they can have their young babies and they can also find a partner to reproduce, or multiple partners in this case. So now that you know a little bit more about these animals, and so they're large, they're marine mammals, they breathe air like you and I, they make huge movements. With this knowledge, we then come into whale snot research, and this is the type of work I've been doing. So you can see here in this picture, you've got 4 humpback whales. One of them here is taking a breath, and as they take a breath, you can hear their noise, but you can also see their breath. And so what we're doing for this research is we're collecting their breath, which we refer to as whale snot. So whale snot is that visible plume of spray rising from a whale's nostrils. The humpback whale have 2 nostrils just like us, and these animals will breathe air, so they need to come to the surface to breathe. Now, once they do that, we can actually collect this information to learn more about their health. Now, the reason that we want to collect the whale snot or their breath is because whales, unfortunately, are not like your pet dog or cat where they'll sit still and have their blood taken by a vet. That just doesn't happen. So we had to be innovative, and we had to look for ways that we can collect health information from whales without having to hurt them. And this is a very big, important thing. So their breath, and as you would know through COVID, by sampling the cells in their nose or their mouth, we can actually sample DNA, hormones, lipids, so those are fats, and proteins, as well as microbiota or microbiome. And all of this information can provide us with a snapshot of a whale's health, which is a great way. But one of the ways in which we're trying to do this is, in the past, we've relied on whales that had stranded, in which case they're on a beach and they're likely to die and their health was probably compromised. As well as this, whales were hunted, which is unethical. And then people were using big poles and holding this over a whale, but this meant that you had to be very close to these large creatures in a boat. So one of the ways that we tried to get around this was by looking at, okay, so we've got an animal that's 17 meters long. We want to do this type of research. We don't want to spend too much money. Accessing these animals requires safety considerations, as well as, well, waiting for them to come up to Sydney, because remember, they spend a lot of time in Antarctica feeding, and they're not always in Australian waters. As well as that, we had to make sure we had scientific ethics and licenses to allow us as scientists to do this type of research. So there were a number of things we had to think about. And one of the great things that I was able to do with my team was collaborate. And science and collaboration just goes hand in hand, which is so fantastic. And so this is a photo of myself and Alistair Smith from Heligai Scientific, who's a drone pilot and engineer. And so together we worked on developing a drone for collecting whale snot, which is super cool. So essentially you have a quadcopter, which has 4 propellers, and in the middle there you've got a petri dish, which, if you can look to my little side there of where I am speaking, I'm holding a petri dish. It's not that big. What happens is it opens and closes on the drone. And we want to be able to collect our biological sample in this very dish. So the idea is it's being very sterile in there. So I'd be wearing gloves, I would be wearing a mask. This dish, unfortunately, is contaminated right now by me. But when we put this on the drone, we make sure it's all nice and clean, and the lid only opens when we want the lid to open. So it means that we only collect whale snot when we are right next to the whale, rather than collecting air samples or samples from the water. So I'm sure many of you want to know and see, how does this actually work? Okay, so this here is a photo, but it will hopefully turn into a video. And this is off Sydney as well. And so what we do is, once we see a pod of whales, we fly the drone out to the whale's position, and we use a camera on board the drone to try and see where the whale is. Now, if we've got really good weather, we can actually see the whale underwater before it comes up to take a breath. And this is what you can see here. So you can see the drone ready in position. And what we're going to do is we're going to wait for the drone lid to open, or rather, we'll wait for the whale to come up to take a breath. And then once it happens, we'll get the drone lid to open and then fly through that whale snot to collect our sample, so we can learn more about whale health. So let's see if this will work. So the whale will come up for a breath. Here we go. The drone opens and the sample is collected, and it goes back to the boat. Now, if you missed that, I will replay that. Here we go again. The whale comes up, takes a breath. The drone flies through the snot, collecting that biological sample, and then flies back to the boat, where then I will collect the sample, go back to the laboratory and analyze for the types of bacteria living in whale lungs. And fortunately, we've been able to find that these whales carry a number of different bacteria that we've characterized, as well as compared with other whale populations around the world. Now, while this is just a a very infant type of research. It has been going on for many years now. The information that we're gathering is really providing us with an idea of how whale health is looking, especially as these whale populations continue to recover post-whaling. Another thing is that we've been able to look at other types of information, such as viruses. So while we can use this technology to look at whale health, we can actually use this technology to look at other types of whale health, such as viruses, but also to look at dolphin snot. So we were the first in the world to collect whale viruses via a drone, but we were also the first in the world to use these very drones to collect dolphin snot. So in this case, we're going from a whale, that takes a breath of up to 5 meters in the air, to a dolphin, which breath might only go to around a meter or less than a meter. So what this has shown is that we can develop technology to learn more about these animals' health without them, in this case, in our research, what we found, showing no behavioral response. So the whales either knew the drone was there and did nothing, or they had absolutely no idea that the drone was there at all, which is great. Much like the dolphins, although the dolphins' behavioral responses are a little bit more trickier to have read because we didn't have many flights as we did with the whales. But another thing is that we can actually collect this health information without needing to be really close to these animals in a boat. So this is a great and innovative project. In addition to this, we can then bring this type of research and this type of technology to studying other animal populations around the world. So for example, I was also then flown to Madagascar to do this very type of research, where we looked at collecting health information from the humpback whale populations over there. Bearing in mind that there are different whale populations right around the world, and by showing that we've got a method that works for one population, we can then adapt that to another population. And it's really important to note that while this research is doing great things, it won't unfortunately answer the entire questions about the overall health of a whale. But what it will do will provide a piece of the puzzle to learning more about these large marine creatures, which do play important roles in our environment. If we think about it, whales will move from one area to another. They'll feed in one area and then they poo in another. And they're moving a huge amount of nutrients from one part of the ocean to another, which is a really important thing for us to ensure that our ocean is fertilized and to ensure that our ocean is healthy. And this is an important thing because remember at the start of the talk, I spoke about how our ocean provides the air we breathe, it provides the food that we eat, and so much more. It is so important that we think about the ocean in a big, big perspective, as well as the animals and the creatures that are in it and the roles in which they play to help regulate the health of the oceans, which is important for us. And I talk about this more specifically in my TEDx talk, which is available through my social media platforms as well, which talks about why we should care about the ocean and why whale stop is important for us, as well as whales, in terms of protecting the environment and our marine environment specifically. So with that, I hope that this talk has been inspiring to you all. I hope that you might be able to think about some of those things you've been wanting to work on, whether it be thinking about collaborating with someone or potentially building some type of technology that can help you answer more questions, whether it be working in the ocean or on land. This is the whole idea of talking through science communication and making our information and our research accessible. And it has been my absolute privilege to be presenting from Australia to you all in Greece. So I hope that you enjoy this science weekend and I hope that you've learnt lots. And if you have any further questions, please don't be afraid to ask me. Thank you so much for your attention and I hope that you have a great science-filled weekend. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.